Before Jesus, the people of Israel, for about 1,000 years, lived a life of strict rule-keeping. So their lives were defined basically by how closely they adhered or kept the law of Moses. And in the law of Moses, there was 613 rules. Now, that might seem like a very limited view of religion, so just rule-keeping. But we have to understand the context that these laws came in. You see, many of the laws in the law of Moses, they were given to the Israelites right after being slaves to the Egyptians for 400 years. And then add on to that 40 years of just wandering around in the desert. So any nation that goes through an experience like that is bound to be thrown off its bearings. They're bound to be disoriented. They're bound to be broken. So people in that psychological state, they're in need of some semblance of order in their lives. And this is why they were given the law of Moses and expected to adhere to it. Not to follow the rules for the rule's sake, but to stabilize themselves, to stabilize their lives that have been thrown off, so to speak. So think of it like boot camp. So those entering the military, very often, they don't enter in great shape. They're a bit disoriented. They might have spent the last 18 years in their parents' basement. And in order to get in shape then, they're put through a tough regiment of exercises and rules. Again, not because the commanders in the military are power trippers, although they might be, but it's all for the purpose of developing the discipline that they need to advance. Now, the problem with the Israelites is that they ended up elevating rule keeping to the level of idolatry. In other words, keeping the rules was seen not just as a step towards right religion and right praise, but keeping the rules became the whole point of religion itself. In other words, God's rules became confused with God himself, which is a tendency that all of us can succumb to at certain times in our lives. Having said this, it's always a good idea to just return to the heart of our faith, to return to what it's all about. And ultimately, it's about friendship with the Lord Jesus. And Jesus himself asserts this when he says to the apostles, just before he ascends into heaven, before he leaves them, one of the last things he says is, "You are no longer my servants, but my friends." So while rule keeping is important initially to get one's bearings, the end goal is friendship with Jesus. So as we continue on our day today, perhaps we can keep the words of Pope Emeritus Benedict in mind, who once said that being a Christian is not the result of an ethical choice or a lofty idea, but an encounter with an event, a person, which gives life a new horizon and a decisive direction.